Have you ever imagined what it would be like to be the first living being to cross Earth's atmosphere and face the vast unknown of space? Well, before humans, other silent heroes were sent to face this challenge. Animals. Few people know, but the first space journey did not involve famous astronauts like Yuri Gagarin or Neil Armstrong. It was flies, dogs, monkeys, and even turtles that paved the way for what we know today as space exploration. Since the 1940s, they have traveled into space, often without even the chance to return. Isn't that fascinating and at the same time disturbing? Did you enjoy learning more about the first living beings in space? Then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like so you don't miss the next videos about the incredible history of space exploration. First experiments with animals. Since the beginning of space exploration, scientists understood that before sending humans into space, it was necessary to test with animals to understand the effects of the space environment on the body. The first group of living beings sent into space were fruit flies in 1947 by the United States. They were exposed to suborbital flight conditions, and upon safely returning, they paved the way for missions with larger animals. These types of tests were crucial for understanding how living creatures would react to the absence of gravity and radiation, elements that were unknown until then. The space programs of the United States and the Soviet Union quickly adopted these experiments as part of their strategies. Every organism sent into space provided important data on how life could adapt outside of Earth. These biological tests not only helped refine rocket technologies, but were also essential for preparing survival conditions for future astronauts and cosmonauts, cementing the beginning of astronautics history. Albert monkeys. In 1949, the United States launched the first monkey into space, Albert I, a rhesus monkey, aboard a V-2 rocket. Unfortunately, he did not survive due to life support system failures. Albert II, in 1950, managed to reach an altitude of 133,000 meters, becoming the first primate to officially enter space. However, he also did not survive due to a parachute issue during re-entry. These rocket tests were milestones because scientific experiments with primates provided insights into the effects of acceleration and weightlessness on the body. These experiments with monkeys were important not only for science and technology, but also for understanding how life support and safety systems could be improved. Although the Albert missions were not successful in terms of the animal's survival, they helped identify critical flaws in space systems, which would later be corrected, ensuring greater safety in future human space missions. Soviet dogs. The Soviet Union was a pioneer in using dogs in its space missions, starting in 1951 with Tsygan and Dezik, the first dogs to survive a suborbital flight. These tests showed that life could withstand the stresses of launch and microgravity. The use of dogs was a significant step for space exploration, as it provided valuable data on the impact of space travel on mammalian bodies. However, the most iconic mission involving dogs was that of Laika, launched in 1957 aboard Sputnik 2. Laika became the first living being to orbit Earth, but she did not survive the mission. These first dogs in space served as fundamental elements in the Soviet space programs, which sought to surpass the Americans in the space race. The data collected from these missions were crucial for the development of technologies that would later allow human presence in orbit. Belka and Strelka. In 1960, Soviet dogs Belka and Strelka made history by becoming the first animals to complete an orbit of Earth and return alive. Aboard the Sputnik 5 spacecraft, they spent a day in orbit and returned safely, marking an important breakthrough in the space race. In addition to the dogs, the capsule also carried mice and other small animals, which broadened the studies on biological tests and the behavior of living organisms in the absence of gravity. The success of this mission gave a significant advantage to the Soviet Union in the context of the space race. The conclusions drawn about survival in space helped shape the next stages of manned missions, such as sending cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, the first human to go into space, just a year later. Chimpanzee ham. The chimpanzee ham became a crucial figure in the history of the United States space experiments. In 1961, he was the first primate to perform manual tasks during a spaceflight, proving that humans could perform complex functions in microgravity environments. Ham's mission was part of the preparations to send the first American into space, and the chimpanzee's success gave scientists confidence that the next manned space missions would be viable. Ham was also the first animal to demonstrate that it was possible to perform tasks under pressure in a zero-gravity environment. This paved the way for the flight of Alan Shepard, the first U.S. astronaut to go into space, just a few months after Ham's mission. These experiments showed how essential it was to test space fauna before risking human lives. Turtles around the moon. In 1968, the Soviet Union conducted an innovative mission by sending turtles aboard the Zond 5 spacecraft for a journey around the moon. This was the first time living beings completed an orbit around the natural satellite and returned to Earth. Turtles were chosen for their resilience and biological simplicity, making them ideal for studying the impact of long space trips. The success of this mission was an important milestone in space travel science and technology. By completing this orbit, the turtles paved the way for future human missions that would follow the same path. The Zond 5 mission was a direct precursor to the Apollo 11 mission, showing that life could withstand the rigors of such a long and challenging journey. Other experiments. Over the years, a wide range of animals have been sent into space to understand the effects of zero gravity on different organisms. Mice, rats, fish, frogs, and even cockroaches have been part of these studies. Each of these experiments focused on understanding how different species behaved in zero-gravity environments and how space affected their biological functions, such as digestion, blood circulation, and reproduction. These studies with space fauna provided a broader understanding of the challenges humans would face on long-duration journeys, such as a possible mission to Mars. From these biological tests, scientists were able to adjust spacecraft conditions, ensuring more safety and comfort for future astronauts. Ethical questions. Over time, the use of animals in space missions raised concerns about the ethical issues involved in these tests. While these scientific experiments have generated important advances, many animals suffered and died, as in the case of Laika, who did not survive her mission. The death of animals for the sake of advancing space technology sparked debates among scientists, activists, and the general public. As space missions evolved, the need to use animals in experiments decreased, but the lessons learned from these missions continue to be a cornerstone in astronautics history. The scientific community is currently seeking alternatives to minimize animal suffering, using new technologies and simulations that can replace the use of animals in future experiments. Now that you've learned how astronaut animals played a crucial role in space exploration, it becomes clear how important these initial missions were for the advancement of science. Every journey, even with its risks and losses, allowed humanity to understand the challenges of surviving in space. But what can we take from all of this for our lives? If the first living beings were able to face the unknown and overcome the technological barriers of the time, what stops us from facing our own daily challenges? Are you exploring your full potential, just like the pioneers of astronautics history? Science has evolved, and with it, the responsibility of thinking about the impact of our advances has grown as well. Have you ever stopped to reflect on what still needs to be discovered? What new horizons can we reach with the technology we have today? If these small and brave living beings could go so far, what stops us from going beyond? If you want to keep learning more about the fascinating world of space travel, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way you'll be able to explore new topics and expand your knowledge with us.